I finally found an isekai manga that I actually enjoy. How a realist hero rebuilt the kingdom. And right from the start, it stands out. This isn't your usual guy gets transported into another world, gets OP powers, builds a harem, and breezes through every conflict like it's a side quest. This one actually tries something rare. It puts thought and strategy over brute force, and characters are driven by logic, emotion, and responsibility rather than tropes. The story begins not with flashy magic or a fight, but with a quiet, emotional conversation. The main character, Kazuya Soma, is talking with his grandfather, who asks him, "Why do you think people build families?" Soma's answer is hauntingly real, saying, "So they don't have to die alone." It's a simple but powerful moment that reveals Soma's depth, and we learn that he had stepped up to care for his grandparents after his parents died, and through that, he gave his grieving grandparents a sense of peace and purpose. His grandfather encourages him to live a life that he can look back on with pride, as if passing the torch of life experience, and that weight carries with Kazuya even after he's suddenly summoned to another world. The world he's brought to is called Landia, a massive supercontinent made up of many kingdoms, large and small. It's a fantasy setting populated by humans, elves, dwarves, dragonutes, and various magical races. Some nations are built on coexistence, others on conflict and discrimination, and the entire continent is politically fragmented. About 10 years before the story begins, a dimensional rift opened in the far north, the demon world, unleashing monsters and intelligent demons. An alliance of countries sent a punitive force into the rift, but they were utterly defeated. The invading demons expanded their territory, claiming a third of the continent, now referred to as the Demon Lord's domain. Now, this is kind of typical stuff, I'm not gonna lie. This is very typical of isekai, but it does get better. Refugees flooded out of the northern territories, destabilizing the entire region. Soma is summoned by the kingdom of Elfraden, a mid-sized monarchy located far from the front lines in the southeast. Though safe from a direct invasion, Elfraden is crumbling from within. Their economy is broken, food is scarce, refugees are overwhelming their cities, and they're being crushed by tribute payments to the dominant Grand Chaos Empire. To make matters worse, summoning a hero was never even expected to succeed. They didn't even have a plan in place for what to do if it did work. So instead of swinging a sword or joining a guild, Kazuya's first question is, where is the national budget? He doesn't want to fight, he wants to manage. He asks for documents on the country's agriculture, trade, forestry, infrastructure, and finances. And after reviewing the information, the king is so impressed by Soma's realism and competence that he abdicates the throne. On the 32nd day of the 4th month in the year 1546 on the continental calendar, Kazuya Soma becomes king of Elfraden and is engaged to the princess Landia. That alone makes this story radically different from most isekai. It's about nation building, not just being overpowered and doing whatever you want. One of Soma's first actions is to audit the kingdom's finances. He goes line by line, tracking down discrepancies, searching for unaccounted expenditures and investments that are actually just embezzlement in disguise. He implements harsh accountability measures. Anyone responsible must either repay the stolen funds or be arrested and have their assets seized. He's serious about rebuilding Elfraden into a self-sufficient nation that can stand toe-to-toe with the Grand Chaos Empire without foreign aid. To meet the empire's financial demands, he sells off a third of the royal treasury, focusing only on ornamental goods like gemstones and jewelry. When Princess Landia returns and asks why that money isn't being used to strengthen the military, he tells her bluntly that building military power is pointless if the country collapses from within due to famine and unrest. Without food, security, and public trust, even the strongest army can't stop a revolt. Soma also isn't completely powerless. He has a unique magical ability called living poltergeists, which allows him to project his consciousness into objects and control them remotely, even creating an overhead view. This helps him multitask and crank through paperwork with supernatural speed, a perfect power for a bureaucratic king. One of the root problems he uncovers is in agriculture. The kingdom's fields are overrun with cotton, not food crops. After the Demon Lord's domain expanded, the global demand for clothing and cotton skyrocketed. Farmers chasing profit converted their fields into cash crops, abandoning food production. This led to food shortages, inflated import prices, and a strained economy where people couldn't afford food or luxury items. Soma decides to reverse this by regulating cotton production and subsidizing the planting of essential crops. Fields would be replanted with soybeans, known for their versatility, and potatoes, which are resistant to famine. His long-term goal is to build more paddy fields for rice, improving both food security and national self-sufficiency. The story doesn't just focus on Soma's reforms, but also the world around him. In chapter 3, he observes that the kingdom's technology is completely inconsistent. There's no gas infrastructure, but people use fire magic to cook. No aqueducts, but magic water is used in wells. Heavy loads are transported by beasts of burden, and they fly on wyverns. Sea dragons pull battleships. Their entire civilization is hovering somewhere between the late Middle Ages and the early modern era, still stuck in a feudal system with no industrial revolution in sight. And it's observations like these which I think are most important in a series like this, because a lot of isekais don't nearly develop the world as much as this one has. They all are very basic and usually the same kind of like situation in every single story, but this is very different and I like that. Realizing he can't fix the country alone, Soma uses a magical broadcast device to send a message across the kingdom calling for anyone with rare or exceptional skills to come forward. This leads to the arrival of 5 unique individuals. First is Aisha Utgard, a dark elf warrior who needs help defending her homeland. Then Hakuya Kwanman, a legal genius with a photographic memory who has memorized the entire body of law. He becomes Soma's top advisor. Junodoma is a singer with a voice so powerful it can sway hearts and potentially even politics. Noe Inui is a young girl who can speak to animals, and shockingly, to demons. Her ability reveals that some demons are not mindless beasts but intelligent beings with culture and language, hinting at the entire war might be based on fundamental misunderstanding. This revelation is potentially world-shattering. If other nations found out that Elfraden can talk to demons, it could cause chaos. Some might see it as a chance for peace, others might accuse them of betrayal, but it's also a massive strategic advantage. They now have the potential to negotiate, not just fight. In chapter 5, another important character is introduced, Pancho Panicotta. Ridiculed for his gluttony, he's actually a walking encyclopedia of food. Soma immediately recognizes his value. Pancho helps identify new, overlooked, and underutilized food sources from across the continent, allowing for the kingdom to broaden its food base. With his help, Soma launches a public cooking show educating citizens on the new food options to ease the transition away from cotton and luxury goods. He makes a public appeal to the entire nation, asking them to trust his policies and survive until autumn, when the first wave of crop reform will show its results. He also grants the Mystic Wolf tribe a monopoly on fermented soybean products like soy sauce, encouraging minority economic participation in cultivating loyalty in overlooked populations. By chapter 7, Kazuya's reforms move to the city itself. Using ancient catacombs under the capital, he builds a 3-tiered aqueduct and sewer system. The first layer draws in clean water from the river, the second is sealed off to prevent odors, and the third channels sewage to sediment ponds outside the city for filtration before the water returns to the river. While digging, they discover ancient dragon and monster bones, implying the land once experienced a mythic age now lost to time. You may be asking, why does this matter? And my question is, I don't know. I just needed a bit more substance for the script. Anyhow, on the urban side, Kazuya designates narrow streets as pedestrian-only zones. Carriages are banned except for early morning restocking deliveries. This makes the city safer and cleaner, mostly to eliminate the dried horse dung that was making people sick. He also nationalizes waste disposal. Specialized recycling centers are created capable of extracting metal nails and wood from trash. Skilled workers are employed as civil servants, giving people both jobs and dignity. Princess Lucia is left awestruck by the pace of change. She says plainly, "This country is really changing, and Soma is at the center of it." And that's what makes the story so powerful. It's not about getting stronger, it's about making things better for everyone. Watching protagonists take on the economic disaster of urban sanitation, racial inequality, and the politics of food security is oddly refreshing in a genre dominated by demon lords and dungeon raids. But there's this bittersweet feeling too, because with all this knowledge and all this reform, we know exactly where this is going. In time, they'll have $500 game consoles and $80 games, just like us. It's a fate you can't escape. It almost brings a tear to my eye. But for now, how a realist hero built a kingdom. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can be there next time. Also, I want you to remember this.
Fear God, love Jesus.
Peace.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.